Hello, it's time to write the essay which is due on the 30th of July, and this means tomorrow. There's hardly any time left to be spared except these moments to share some ideas with you. I've been playing around for 2 months and now it's time to do it. Anyway, the course is called Emotions and Human Mobility, and I'm going to write something about the construction of knowledge or the role of emotions in constructing knowledge. And this is something inspired by some of the questions which are usually addressed to me. People usually admire that I speak foreign languages, and when I say foreign languages, this includes Arabic because our standard modern Arabic, which I learned at school and not at home. That's why I say that's why I deem it a second language. Anyway, people usually ask me about my motivations for learning languages, and they use either interests, linguistic interests, or linguistic inclination, which I might agree with to a certain extent. But I usually say that this is something inferior to an interest. It's something more like a survival strategy. So I'm writing, I'm learning foreign languages because I want to survive. Of course, there are other you know goals, other objectives like being a model, helping the community, doing something in return to my culture, to people, for the human essence. Anyway, but at the same time, it's kind of survival strategy. So that's why I'm going to tell you how I happen to be a writer, or how I happen to be a teacher of English, for instance, or a teacher of French. Uh, this is a very interesting story, even for myself. Because before the age of 20, for instance, I don't remember, any particular linguistic interest. I was interested in languages or in English or in Arabic as, courses that I had to take at school. That this means that I was not particularly, interested in them more than others. Because I wanted to be a doctor, like everyone, and this is, of course, something that was passed on to us by our parents, the society, which deems this profession as prestigious. So I wanted to study medicine, but not in Syria. I wanted to do that in Lebanon. But the fact that I didn't like mathematics, science, and physics and that stuff, and I found in literature something more enjoyable, more interesting, and that's why I brought novels to my math classes, and I enjoyed reading them while the teacher was explaining things about mathematics and this stuff. Anyway, this is something that I regret now because I'm looking forward to write a novel whose plot is based on mathematics. Yes. Anyway, to complete the story, I want to tell you what happened, at that time. So I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to study medicine, but I not I didn't want to take the trodden way. So I wanted to write a novel, which might be distributed in millions of copies, so I can be wealthy in a short time, and that might enable me to go to study medicine in Lebanon at that time. So my plans were like that. Anyway, I published, the first collection of short stories about at the age of 27 or something, you know, and I published, kind of slim book like this, you know. But before that, in 2003, I came first in a competition which was announced by the Union of Arab Writers, and I won something like $50. Yes, and some books which I didn't read because I sold them because if I had read them, that would have made them less attractive for being sold. So I sold them for something like 10 or more dollars. I don't remember. Anyway, so that's how I learned that that I can gain some money or I can survive, due to some intellectual stuff. In the first I thought that I don't know, I didn't know, I had no ideas how to survive other ways. maybe I like was collecting some or picking fruits or something like I did jobs like that before I discovered how I can make a lot of money out of books. Anyway, uh, so and it took me some other years. It was the first novel which I published. Actually, it was in 2012. And this means 14 years later than the time I wanted to write a novel. Actually, what's is interesting, even for me, like the age of 17 or 18, I wanted to 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 take my own way. So I wanted to make money. I wanted to find my way in the life even before getting the high school diploma. So I tried to find another way to evade it, to do something without even like having my high school diploma, which was not really a good plan. Anyway, I took my high school diploma later on my first degree, on my second degree. Anyway, I'm still studying right now because, like, I believe in this way of life. I believe in, like, survival, based on some intellectual stuff. So, like, this was my first novel, which was published in 2012, and the first novel I published in English, it was just like last year. I'm talking about Crazy Dance. So, going back to the essay, I'm going to write about this novel. This means that I'm going to handle one of the chapters here, like in my essay, because uh, because it's related. I'm going to talk about when the effects of migration, because this girl in the novel uh, tries to handle things after the departure of her parents, and usually, they are parents, who, as I said before, that they pass on the, a lot of teachings to us. And like, once we are equipped with these kind of teachings, with this kind of input, this enable us to, this provide us with a certain perspective with which we deal with the world. Otherwise, it's hard. So what I wrote about, like in this chapter, it was this kind of great challenge, for a teenager, at the age of 17. It was like the same age at which I wanted to write a novel, and to face the world with my input, which was insufficient, actually. you know and in this chapter, you know and this girl who tries to take the role of a mother or a parent, even though that she was not, well equipped to play this role. It was insufficient. So I'm not going to tell you many details about, like, this, but I'm going to handle this. You know, the concept that I'm dealing with, of course, is the construction of knowledge, the role of emotions. You know, how emotions, like, play a great role in learning. And because in academic, usually academic tests, like, they don't rely too much, like, if you even if you admit that your work involves emotions, and this might harm the authenticity of your text. Anyway, I think that emotions play a great role in our life, and they, like, we use them, like, either for learning or for learning refusal. That we, as human beings, we refuse, we go through kind of process of learning refusal, and this is something else related to the construction of knowledge. uh, and this is inspired also by emotions. It's like, emotions which guide us to a great extent. Anyway, I hope that you are satisfied with this brief description of what I'm going to do in one day left. Goodbye.